What is going on, YouTube? The wait is finally over. I am so happy to be producing this video. This is my final election prediction of the 2020 cycle. I've been working very hard every day analyzing the past weeks. I mean, it has been absolutely a very long time, like so many weeks, probably 10 weeks since I've produced a video, which is just crazy, but I've been analyzing so much data and trying to give an accurate prediction to give you a good report of how I think the election will turn out. And now, with just like 3.5 hours until polls close in the beginning states, I am ready to make my final 2020 election projection. So, as I always do, I'm going to start off in the west and go over to the east. And this time, unlike my previous turns, I'm doing kind of like a raw video. Like, I'm not going to be doing that much editing because, I mean, there is honestly only minutes until the polls close, and this is valid. So, um, I'm doing a raw video, so please bear with me for the poor editing or the lack of editing that will be present in this video. So first I'm going to start off with the state of Nevada. Nevada has been a very interesting state because back weeks ago, a couple months ago, I thought it was going to be heavily blue, but after analyzing so much data from 2018, 2016, even 2014 and 2012 about trends and about early voting turnout in the state of Nevada, the race has really tightened. And while I don't project Donald Trump to win the state of Nevada, Hillary only won the state by 2 to 3 points in 2016. I know Hillary was not Joe Biden. Hillary was obviously more despised nationwide than Joe Biden. But Nevada is actually very close. I'm not characterizing it in the tilt category because I have a special set of 6 states that I will be characterizing in tilt based on data and early voting and history. So it's not one of those 6 states where I think could go either way, but it is very close in Nevada. But at the end of the night, or I mean, we might not know the result of this election for days, if not weeks. So at the end, I think Nevada will be going for Joe Biden, but obviously for a smaller margin. I'm going to skip Arizona because it is one of the six tilt states. So that is so close. So I'll be heading over to Colorado. Colorado, I am characterizing as that would be likely, I believe. I don't know the difference between likely and lean. It's different with every company. So Colorado is slightly more likely than Nevada to go for Joe Biden. Colorado was formerly a swing state, but after Hillary won it by the margin she did, and the 18 midterms in Colorado, it's going blue, and it's going blue by a sizable margin in this election. Now down to Texas. Democrats were trying to gain a foothold in this state, and I think they have gotten massive progress in Texas. However, this is not the year Texas goes blue. It's just not the right set of candidates. There is not the pinpointed demographic motivation in Texas. However, it will be close. If you look at history, Ted Cruz, who was widely despised amongst Democrats in Texas, could only beat Beto O'Rourke by 1 to 2% in the 2018 primaries. Texas has a growing Latinx population. So Texas will be very close in the coming elections. I don't believe we will have a midterm in 2022 for Texas, because they have a senator up right now and a governor, and then in 18. So yeah, we will not have a midterm out of Texas, which is horrible for my hobby because midterms are a great indicator of the coming election. But 2024 Democrats have a real chance at getting Texas. However, most polls, which I don't really like to look at the polls because of how wrong they were in 2016, and they're specifically wrong in presidential elections compared to Senate or governor or congressional. So I think Donald Trump holds on to Texas, but in 2016, I believe he won it by 10%, and now this time it will be very close, and the Democratic forces in Texas are very motivated. I just do not believe they have the votes in Texas to flip it red in this year. So now up to Nebraska's 2nd district. This is the first time in the whole election I've actually spoken about Nebraska's 2nd district. I'm gonna call myself out on it. I kind of did not expect this district to play such a pivotal role, as it's only one electoral vote. However, as I analyze so much data in the past weeks, I've been wanting to make this video for a very long time, but I was never really confident with pinpointing states, and Nebraska's 2nd district kind of got ignored in my previous videos, but after analyzing so much data, it will not be ignored. So I think Donald Trump squeaks out Nebraska's 2nd district. Polls have it very close. He only won it in 2016 by 1 to 2 points. However, most polling has him winning this district. And at the end of the day, it is metropolitan Omaha, but it also is some surrounding suburbs. So it's Nebraska at the end of the day. I don't think Joe Biden can flip Nebraska's 2nd district. I don't believe he's even visited Omaha, Nebraska. Donald Trump does not win this district, however, by a sizable margin whatsoever. I believe he will only win this by 8% if he is lucky. So now, this is a raw video. I'm not going to do very much editing, but I do have to take a water break, so please excuse me. Okay, so now over to Iowa. Iowa, I have also ignored for most of this campaign season. Trump won Iowa by 10%. I thought the days of Iowa being a swing state are gone. Well, that is no longer the case. Polling has it dead heat in Iowa, and I don't know if you'll be able to see my cursor, but in eastern Iowa, along the Mississippi River, by Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Illinois, there are very moderate forces that are going for Joe Biden in Iowa. So it is very, very close in Iowa. However, I don't believe those forces will be so strong to flip Iowa blue after Trump won it by 10% in 2016. So, Iowa, I would say, is most similar to Nevada on this map in that it is very close, but I'm not characterizing it as a tilt because I'm saving that for my 6 states where I really do not have a confident projection of which way they will go. So now up to Minnesota. Minnesota has been talked about after the city of Minneapolis and the city of St. Paul have suffered many riots breaking out this past election. Um, Minnesota is a historically blue state. If I had to compare it to a GOP state, I would compare it to Arizona because Arizona was historically red, Minnesota historically blue, but now in this cycle, they are toss ups. Now, I notice news coverage rarely talks about Minnesota in this cycle, and I'm not really sure why, because polling is very close in Minnesota. In 2018, the races were pretty close in Minnesota, and Trump is aiming for is really aiming for Minnesota, similar to how Democrats are aiming for Georgia. It's a state that he's not really historically meant to win, but there was a poll. I'm not really sure by which company, but moderate Democrats in Minnesota feel that the modern Democratic Party has left them. Now, with that said, Amy Klobuchar and Tina, what's her name? I cannot remember her last name, I'm sorry. Amy Klobuchar and her colleague, other Senator Tina, unknown last name, have been winning Minnesota. I believe, I don't think Amy was up in 2018, but her colleague was up in 18, and she won by a pretty comfortable margin. Minnesota is a historically blue state, historically moderate and blue collar state in the tip of the Rust Belt, which is really what Joe Biden is aiming for. So I think Minnesota remains blue in this election. However, is there a chance Trump can pick off Minnesota? Yes. Likely, no. So just as a key, I'm not really the solid colors. I'm sure will remain the way they are. Then the colors like Colorado, and what Texas almost is. Here, I'll show you. Like this. These colors, I am pretty sure, but historically, I cannot be certain. And then the shades like Minnesota, Iowa, and Nevada and Texas, I'm considering probably, but it's very close. And then my tilt states, which you will see soon, could go either way. It's essentially nearly 50-50. And it is just so close in these states. So that's a quick key. So now we're going to skip over Wisconsin. We're going to skip over Michigan because those are both tilt states like Arizona. But now we're going to go down to Ohio. Ohio is widely accepted to no longer be a swing state. Ohio elected their Republican governor by a comfortable margin in 2018, and their popular, moderate Democratic incumbent could only win by 3 to 4% in his re-election bid. Ohio is red. The polls are showing it, and Donald Trump will have made a grave error to lose Ohio. I do not see Joe Biden winning Ohio. Republican Ohio is not only trending more red in elections, but polling in the media barely consider Ohio a swing state anymore, and even the most liberal of projectors believe Ohio is going red. So Joe Biden can say goodbye to Ohio, in my personal opinion. I'm going to take another water break. This is what unedited is like. And now I'm going to head over to Virginia. Virginia has been historically a toss-up state, but like Ohio, it in the recent cycles has not been trending very toss-up. Hillary won Virginia by a pretty comfortable margin, I believe, and their midterms went big blue. So, like Ohio and formerly being a swing state, you know what? I'm going to characterize Virginia as a likely blue because Virginians, I feel, are buying what Joe Biden is selling, that he's going to be a moderate Democrat supporting blue collar workers. I cannot think of a more, maybe other than Minnesota, state that applies to Virginia the way it does Joe Biden. So, Virginia is going blue. I would say it's like the Democratic opposite of Ohio, in that it was historically a toss up, but now after trending, it is just blue for Biden. Now down to Georgia. I have a feeling that most people would like me to characterize Georgia as a tilt, but the fact is, I do not see Joe Biden winning Georgia, and it does not even make it into the tilt column, because in 2018, very unpopular Republican across the nation, he is disliked by Democrats and moderates across the nation, still beat a charismatic, excited Democratic base behind her, African American woman Stacey Abrams. And if she could not turn out the vote in Georgia for the Democratic base, I really don't know who can. I don't think Joe Biden can in Georgia. And that is why I think Trump is on his way to victory in Georgia, even though it is very close. I personally feel Donald Trump will win the state of Georgia. So, we're going to ignore Florida. We're going to ignore North Carolina for the time being, and we're going to ignore Pennsylvania. So now up to New Hampshire. Hillary Clinton only could win New Hampshire by 3 to 4 points. I think Joe Biden wins New Hampshire by more. I would say New Hampshire is similar to Virginia, except for, I would say Joe Biden is more likely to win New Hampshire than Virginia. So I think New Hampshire, while historically being a toss-up, goes for moderate, blue-collar Joe Biden when all the votes are counted. So now up to Maine's 2nd District. This is very difficult for me to project, but I am projecting it as a lean red, simply because there's not much polling out of Maine's 2nd District. They don't have midterms where they can elect senators or governors, and Trump won Maine's 2nd District over Clinton by, I believe, a margin of 10 points. So that is really my only proof for characterizing Maine's 2nd District as a likely red. So I do not believe Joe Biden will win Maine's 2nd District, but honestly, it's very hard to find accurate information out of there. So I would not be surprised if Joe Biden won, but honestly, let's be real. Nebraska's 2nd District and Maine's 2nd District, where I really am not confident in my projection. I mean, it's 2 electoral votes, 1 each. This is not going to change the election. So, I'm sorry, their votes count, but in this cycle, it's just not going to change the election. So, I need one more water break, and you can mull over the map without the tilts. So now we're going to start in states um, where I believe their likeliness of, even though they're a tilt from most likely, I'm like most confident to least confident. So with that said, we're going to start in Wisconsin. It's a tilt blue. Polling accurate, well-respected polling like ABC and the New York Times have Biden up 17 points. Do I think Biden will win Wisconsin by 17 points? Heck no. Biden, if he can flip Wisconsin, will only win it by, I would say, he's lucky to win Wisconsin by 25,000 votes. So, Wisconsin will be very close. I do not believe we will know the result of Wisconsin tonight. However, I do think Joe Biden will win Wisconsin because in 2018, Democrat dethroned, I'll use that word, a incumbent Republican governor who seemed pretty well liked until last year. Tammy Baldwin, a pretty liberal senator, went on to, I believe, win re-election. I believe she wasn't a incumbent by close to 20%. Trump barely won Wisconsin. The Democratic base, who did not turn out last time, are registering and voting in record numbers. I do not see a way for Donald Trump to win Wisconsin. I just do not think the votes are there after analyzing the data that I have analyzed. Hey, but it's still in the tilt column. If Trump won Wisconsin, I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised if either candidate won any of these 6 states. However, I believe Joe Biden will win. So now we go over, or down rather, to Florida, and I have a feeling that this will also be a controversial projection. But Florida, I characterize as tilt red, and I'm not very confident in it, but I'm semi-confident that Florida will go red. Trump won Florida by, I believe, 2.5% in 2016. And now, Cuban Americans living in Florida are the only Latino demographic. Cuban Americans are the only Latino demographic that are going for Trump over Biden compared to Mexican Americans, Puerto Rican Americans, and Central American Americans. And obviously, because of its proximity to Cuba, they have the votes for Trump, and I do not see Joe Biden winning. However, if he does, I will not be surprised. Vice versa to Wisconsin. But, we had a popular Democrat running against a very unpopular Republican in 2018. The Republicans still won, and their governor won his Senate seat in 2018. And Trump won this state by 3 points. They count fast in Florida. I think we're going to know the results of Florida tonight, as they've already started counting early voting. And I think Florida goes red in 2020. So now we're going to go over to Arizona. And up until the past couple days, Arizona has been pretty difficult to project. But now in the early vote, Trump has surpassed Biden, which is bad news for the Biden campaign in Arizona. Arizona is a historically red state. However, Democrats were hoping to gain a foothold after openly bisexual Democrat Kristen Sinema won over incumbent, I believe she was an incumbent, Republican Martha McSally by close to 5%. And they were confident that Arizona will go um, blue. However, in polling, the polls have narrowed, and in the early vote, Trump has taken the lead, which is not good. I mean, it is widely accepted that more Democrats will be early voting and more Republicans will be in person voting. For Donald Trump to have taken over the early vote in Arizona, I do not see how Biden can win Arizona. I will not be surprised if Biden wins Arizona, as there is a big Latino population who obviously do not favor Trump. So Arizona, however, I believe will go red for the reasons I just stated. I need another water break. So now for my next tilt state, I am heading over to Michigan, and I believe Michigan is going blue in 2020. Michigan elected a Democrat governor by 10%. Even though Trump won Michigan by, I believe it was 0.25%, and then for them to shift completely blue, they elected her by 10%, and they reelected their incumbent Democrat, Debbie Stabenow, by a sizable margin as well, over Republican John James in 2018. Similar to Wisconsin, we're seeing in Michigan record Democratic registration, and for Trump to that narrowly squeak out a win in Michigan, and now we're seeing record Democratic. They are motivated and they want Trump out, and I believe in this election, Donald Trump loses more votes than he gains. And this is a referendum, as it always is for a sitting president. However, I believe he loses more votes than he gains in this election. And in Michigan, it was so close in 2016. I do not believe Trump will win Michigan. Will I be surprised if he wins Michigan? No. But personally, I do not believe he can win Michigan. So now we have 2 states left, and now I'm heading down to finish out the Sun Belt in North Carolina. North Carolina has been so difficult for me to project. North Carolina, Democrats are campaigning across the state, Republicans are campaigning across the state, and the polls are dead heat, and North Carolina did not have a midterm. So it has just been an absolute nightmare to predict North Carolina. North Carolina, I believe, goes Trump, because I believe Trump won in 2016 North Carolina by 3% over Clinton, and in the recent days, the polls have narrowed, which usually favors Trump, as it did in 2016. Most people thought Hillary would win, and then in the final days leading up to the election, the polls tightened, and Trump came out with his near landslide. I mean, the way Trump won in 2016 is absolutely remarkable. He won in a electoral college near landslide while losing the popular vote. I mean, 2016 was such a fluke election. So, anyway, I kind of got off topic. North Carolina, I think, is going red. I don't have much data to back that up. However, Trump won it by 3% in 2016, and the polls have it in dead heat. And Charlotte has become a very financial area, which typically favors Republicans. So this is why I think North Carolina is going red. Am I certain? Of course not. Will I be surprised if Joe Biden wins North Carolina? Of course not. But personally, and I try to remain unbiased, and I think I am because I consider myself a moderate. I'm not even throwing my support behind either Joe Biden or Donald Trump. I just try to analyze the facts. I feel that North Carolina goes for Trump. I need one more water break. And finally, Pennsylvania. As I'm finishing out this video, we have now mere minutes until the votes are beginning to be counted in the states. And it all comes down to Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, I was confident Joe Biden would have a victory after their Democratic governor won in 2018 by a very large margin. I believe it was close to 15 points. I do not believe any senators ran in 2018, but if they did, the governor race really stood out to me over those elections. Pennsylvania is Joe Biden's home state. He was a senator from Delaware, but he was born and half raised in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Joe Biden is a moderate, which appeals Pennsylvanians. So back a couple weeks ago, Pennsylvania, you thought Joe Biden had it in the bag. Well, this debate comment about fracking in Pennsylvania, I believe, scares a lot of moderate voters. The polls have tightened in Pennsylvania. Biden only has, I would say, an average of 3 to 4 point lead in Pennsylvania, which is in the margin of error. And to me, Republicans are well known to not answer to polling and to lie to pollsters. So I consider Pennsylvania in dead heat. And unfortunately, the entire election, I predict, rides on Pennsylvania. So the debate comment really threw. It's going to be a matter of how much that comment, how many moderates and Joe Biden supporters got thrown to Trump from that comment. And personally, I characterize Pennsylvania blue, even though it is so close, because I don't think that enough moderates can be thrown to Trump to match up to the record number of registration from the motivated Democratic base in Pennsylvania. And mind you, in all across the country, in all of these tilt states, it's a beautiful day. The sun is shining, and there is warm weather, and turnout is going to be high, and high turnout typically favors Democrats. And because of record registration, and because of how Donald Trump just narrowly won Pennsylvania, and how Joe Biden is now a moderate, I do not believe Donald Trump wins Pennsylvania. But as I look at this map, it is so bold of me, I feel, to just completely flip the Rust Belt. I mean, it's astonishing to see the Rust Belt, all three. I mean, Minnesota's part of the Rust Belt, but it's not really a tight swing state. All three go for Obama, then for Trump, now back to Biden, and they're all moderates there, so it could go Republican again. But I see Pennsylvania going blue, and that puts Joe Biden over, just narrowly over, 270 for a result of 260 for Donald Trump and 278 for Joe Biden. So, for my final prediction, with just 2.5 hours left in this video, it will be even closer to the polls closing. I project Joe Biden to be elected the next president of the United States of America. So, I'm sure you're also wondering about Senate after I just made this projection. Senate, as you can see on the screen, I am moving to the map. The Senate, I believe, is a nail biter. I'm going to fill in the solid states. Oregon, solid. New Mexico, solid. Illinois, solid. Where else? For Democrats, okay. Delaware, New Jersey, Rhode Island, Massachusetts. That's about the only solid Democrat states for the Senate. Now you go over to the Republican solids. Idaho, Wyoming, Alaska, Oklahoma, Kansas, I believe is a solid. Nebraska, South Dakota, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. Doug Jones will be packing his bags, I project. Kentucky, Tennessee, and West Virginia. Kentucky is a solid red, even though Democrats were hoping to get rid of Mitch McConnell. But it's just not going to happen in Kentucky. Excuse me, I need a water break. So now I'm going to quickly fill in my likelies. I believe Montana is likely red. The polls have the Republican winning. The Republican, I believe, is a incumbent. So I think Montana will go red, even though the popular Democrat former governor is running. I believe Montana will be red for their Senate. Now down to Colorado. I would characterize it not likely red, likely blue. Cory Gardner will, I do not believe, be reelected. Colorado has gone very blue since he was first elected in 2014. He is considered the most unpopular senator in the entire Senate, and former popular moderate governor, Democrat, is running against him. Cory Gardner will not win. Now down to Texas. I characterize it as a likely red only because the Democrat is not gaining any national momentum or motivation. The nation does not know about the Democrat. I'm even blanking on her name right now. So that is why I believe Texas is a likely red for their Senate. And South Carolina, that is a likely red for Lindsey Graham. Democrats were hoping Jamie Harrison could pull out a victory, but the polls just don't show it. The history doesn't show it. The turnout doesn't show it. Lindsey Graham will be reelected, unfortunately, for Democrats. Now to the eastern seaboard. Virginia, that's a likely blue. Virginia's going blue in 2020. The Republican has not gained any national momentum from the conservatives. Same thing with New Hampshire. Popular Jeanne Shaheen will probably be going on to re-election, and by a sizable margin. So now out to Arizona. McSally. I believe Arizona will go red for Trump, but blue for McSally. Or blue against McSally and for Kelly. Because but I'm going to characterize it as a tilt because McSally is so unpopular. She was she lost in 2018 to Kristen Sinema by 3 to 5%. Then the governor, which I find was a mistake, nominated her to fill McCain's seat, and now she's running for re-election against a popular, charismatic Democratic astronaut. I don't see how she can do it. Arizona does not like her. Even though the polls are tightening, I wouldn't be surprised if she won re-election, but I'm projecting Arizona goes blue. And Trump even, some say, humiliated her at a rally the other day, and said that she's gonna win on his coattails. So, I just don't think Arizona will re-elect McSally. Over to Iowa, I think Joni Ernst will be re-elected pretty comfortably. The Democrat is not gaining any national momentum, and Iowa is a pretty conservative Senate state. They have Chuck Grassley, and I think Joni Ernst is pretty well liked in Iowa. So I think Iowa will remain red, in Wisconsin. Minnesota will remain blue for the same reasons, but flipped. There's no massive Republican effort in the Senate race. Even though some say there is, but I don't see it. It's not reported on. And I think Minnesota remains blue for their Senate. So now over to Maine. I think Susan Collins is going down, but by a small margin. Here, I'm going to change this style. There we go. Okay. I don't think she is liked in Maine anymore. I think she's seen as too conservative after the Brett Kavanaugh hearing. Even though she did not vote to confirm Amy Coney Barrett, I think it's too late for Susan Collins. Would I be surprised if she won re-election? Of course not. But I think Maine will go blue against Susan Collins for Sarah Gideon. Water break. This is a pretty long video. Georgia's very hard to project, but honestly, I think that it is going red in both races. The races they're not going to go red for one person and blue for the other person. I think most political analysts agree with me that Georgia will most likely elect their Republican senators. John Ossoff is making a name of himself in Georgia. I don't think he has enough nationwide attention to win Georgia. And honestly, if Stacey Abrams couldn't win governor, I don't see John Ossoff winning in Senate. So now it's 48-50 in the Senate with 2 seats remaining. And we go over to North Carolina, and I think Tom Tillis narrowly wins re-election. It's a hard race to predict, but I think that sex scandal is going to bring Cal Cunningham way down, and I even think Trump will win in North Carolina. So, I would say that Tom Tillis will win re-election, and people in North Carolina say they don't understand how Tom Tillis could lose because they see his signs, and they see his popularity. So now one state left. We've got Michigan. It's a very close race because Gary Peters is he's not well known. Nobody barely knows of this guy. That's not like a conservative platform. It's just truth. Most of the Democratic Party and most conservatives have no idea who Gary Peters is. And he's up against African American Republican, who's gaining a lot of attention. He's getting money poured into his campaign. However, I think Peters very narrowly wins. Will I be surprised if he loses? No. But I think Peters narrowly wins because of the history, and I think Michigan is just going blue in this cycle. So that's how Peters wins in Michigan. And John James ran in 2018 against Stabenow and lost pretty horribly. So that's why I won't be surprised if Michigan gives him a chance. But I also won't be surprised, and I think this is more likely, that Donald Trump brings down John James and the Republicans in Michigan. So my final Senate projection is 51-49 Republican hold, but obviously this is very close, and with a margin of only 2 votes, it could change. So I am not very extremely confident in my Senate projection, but personally, for the reasons I gave you, this is why I project a 51-49 Republican hold. And in Congress, I think it is well known and accepted by most people that the Democrats will hold the House. So, to conclude, I believe Joe Biden wins the presidency, Republicans hold the Senate, and I also predict that Democrats will keep the House. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to create more videos in the very near future. And don't forget to follow on Instagram and Twitter, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell and like this video. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to vote if you haven't already.
I never let my guard go down, but you messed me up.